Hello and welcome to the Distinct Viability Podcast. I am your host, Ken Meeker, and I had such a great time having a conversation with this week's guest that we decided to go ahead and do another one together and finish up our conversation that we were having. Without further ado, I'm going to pass it on over to this week's guest host, Montreece Hardy. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Ken. Thank you for having me again. And I'm excited about this conversation. So, since you passed it over to me, I have a question for you,
Okay,
which I'm
shoot.
excited about. One thing that we've talked about off air, offline, is intersectionality and disability.
Hmm.
And I am so curious. First of all, I know that we're going to need to define that term. So maybe I should do that. Long story short, and in the most elementary of terms, hopefully not too overly simplified, intersectionality is defined as a crossover of groupings, if you will, that a person experiences, their different life experiences according to a number of different factors. This includes race, culture, gender, sexuality, ability, and so on. And the many layers that come with that, and the different layers of all things positive and negative that come with those lived experiences. Do you have something you want to add to that idea or definition first, Ken?
I wouldn't say I usually go with intersectionality as what makes everybody a because we all have a whole bunch of things that make us us, and
Mm-hmm.
it's all of those things and how they intersect and interact with each other.
Yeah.
That's so it's all the things that make you you.
Yes. I agree. I agree with that. And so with that in mind, I am curious if you have found yourself in having any experiences where, besides your different ability or disability, there was something that makes you you, that either enhances and makes having the disability better or worse. Does that question make sense, first of all?
It does actually, and I think that's a great question. So with intersectionality, I think it's something that is critically important to really any conversation, especially within the diversity and inclusion space. As you and I have talked about, offline before, I think that there needs to be a greater consensus within people that work within the diversity and inclusion space about language, meaning,
Yeah.
definition,
Yes.
because if within the space itself, we can't figure it all out, how are people that are outside of it going to understand anything, and how can we get buy-in from them? And
Right.
so with intersectionality, because it's not one thing, it's all the things, so to speak. I'm male, I'm cisgender, I'm also gay, I'm disabled, I'm a partner, I'm a business owner, small business owner, I'm a son, I'm an uncle, I'm all of those things. And I'm always all of those things. It's just depending on the circumstance. Some of them might be more on display,
Mm-hmm.
but they all interact with each other, and they all make up who I am. And so I think as it relates to the disability component, that's just one part of who I am. And I think that being exclusionary in terms of we're only going to focus on this thing or that thing or this thing um, is to everybody's detriment, because it doesn't take into
Mm-hmm.
consideration the whole person and allowing
Right.
the whole person to show up. And the whole thing I'm about within the diversity and inclusion space is creating a safe space for everyone to show up and be themselves authentically,
Mm-hmm.
and to feel welcome, belonging, and because I'm all about creating equity. That's what the
Yeah.
most important, that is the, to me, that is the most important aspect of it, because that's when people have buy-in. They have what they need in order to thrive. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where, that's the only avenue to get to equality, is if people have
Right.
equity. Because if they don't feel vested, if they don't feel like they have a stake in something, they're not going to care as much. And so that's what I'm all about. And the only way to allow that is for people to show up authentically, which means intersectionality has to be a component of that. What are all the
Hmm.
aspects that make somebody a person?
Yes.
I don't know if that answers your
I
question, but that's that for me. That's how disability is just one part of who I am, and it hasn't always been a part of who I am either. And so, over the courses of our lives, circumstances change. People have kids, they get married, they get divorced. All kinds of different things happen through our lives, and so the whole person needs to be able to show up.
right. I love that answer. And thank you so much for sharing that and speaking to that. I feel like it's going to give a good foundation, I believe, for how I think about intersectionality when it comes to my experience with this disability. I was in a conversation with another young woman. She, oh my goodness, I'm having like mom brain fog, taking care of kids. Sorry about that. But we talked a good amount about that on your last episode. But disability as a parent, whoa, that is a whole other monster in itself. But we were talking, this young lady and I. She is a what is a diversity and inclusion consultant as well. She focuses more on race and culture. And we were talking about a lot of different cultural differences. She happens to come from Asian American culture in her family. And I think she's, I think she's first generation. I think she's first generation Japanese American. And so we were having this conversation about what it is to walk around in your neighborhood. And she was talking about, we were talking about sustainability and
Okay.
environmental awareness.
Okay.
And in this conversation, we were talking about how cultures are perceived, how people from different cultures are perceived in regards to being environmentally conscious, and what are the things that they can do. So she was saying one thing that she does is she participates in the neighborhood, something like a share type of program where people basically say, hey, I have these items available. Does anybody need these particular items? And then someone on Facebook or some sort of post, and then someone will say yes. And then they say, great, it's available. Just come and get it. Does
So
that
like
make
instead
sense
of
so far?
yeah, so like so instead of throwing something away or whatever, it's be like, hey, I have this shelf. Does anybody need a shelf?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So it's like a co-op. And then of course,
Yep.
that saves on a number of different things. I mean, including carbon footprint, all of those different things, less driving and all of that. You can just
Yeah.
get it from your neighbor. So, and that's just one of the many benefits of that. Well, so she was saying, she responded, she went to go get something. Her neighbor said that she was out of town. The young lady I was speaking with could just go, whatever she was trying to get was in the shed in the back, just go ahead and get it. And
Oh, you told me. I think I don't remember if we talked about this offline or not, but yes, I remember this.
you remember this?
I remember you telling me this. Yes.
Yes. And so I think you're catching my drift now. So she was saying, that she felt she didn't even think about it until our conversation. She said, I did not realize until just now how much privilege I have to even be able to do something like that.
Hmm.
And I said, you are absolutely correct, because I personally feel, as a Black cisgender woman, walking through the neighborhood, if I am told, if no one else knows, if I'm
Hmm.
told to go get something from the neighbors wherever on their property, and I go, I'm going to be questioned,
Hmm.
more than questioned, to
Hmm.
be quite honest. It's honestly a fear for life for me.
Yeah, a justified
But
one. I think it's justified. I think, because
absolutely right.
given everything that happens in our society, and you're touching on something about intersectionality right there, because one of the things
Yes,
that is
yes,
important about it is all of those factors, that make us us. It's how we create, different modes of discrimination and privilege and things like that is with intersectionality and
yes,
how it plays into that. Because in certain
yes,
circumstances, me being a white, cisgender male is going to be, there's a certain level of privilege associated with that,
right.
and then there's other things associated with disability or being gay and all kinds of other things. So
Yes.
it's how it all plays out together.
exactly. And that's a perfect lead into where I'm going. So I was saying, I feel like, that would be my experience. However, if I am walking through the neighborhood with my mobility cane, suddenly I am not a threat at all.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a good side to that because to a certain degree, it saves my life,
Mm-hmm.
which is, it almost makes me emotional to think that because I'm not seen as a threat. No one thinks that I can see anything at all. I'm automatically assumed not only to be totally blind, but I'm also assumed to just be completely non-able,
Mm-hmm.
possibly not even what is it, some additional level of less than and
Yes.
less valuable. Like no, I'm not even a thought.
You're not a threat.
And
You are in need of help.
exactly, exactly, and it's that sat with me for a minute.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's hard because there are so many times when I don't want to use my cane. I don't, because
Mm-hmm.
on the other side of this, on the complete flip side of this, that would be walking through, let's say, what maybe a suburban neighborhood. Well, if I'm walking, downtown in any downtown area or possibly a more urban space, I don't want to walk with my cane because I also don't want to be seen as a victim, you
Uh-huh.
know? So like there's so many interesting levels to how disability intersects with our experience just overall. Like for me as a woman, as a Black woman, my goodness, it creates a lot of different types of conversations, and I never know what's going to happen until I am in the moment. And in that particular instance, to think, wow, it would take for me to be walking with my cane in order for no one, hopefully no one, to call the police and report me for taking something off of someone else's property.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, it's
and yet at
disgusting
the
that you
same
should even
time, it's
have
a
to think about that. It's disgusting that
right,
that should
right,
even pop into your brain. But the truth is, in
exactly.
the reality is that it is the truth. And as
It
disgusting as it might
is.
be, it's still the truth, which leads into stereotypes and stigma and, all of these sort
Yes,
of self-doubt and things like that. Like I don't use my cane all the time because I view it as a tool.
right,
I have zero shame about using it when I need it, and it is always with me. It is always in my backpack. And because it keeps me safe,
right,
and that's how I view it, and that's because that's what it is. It's not about what other people think about it. I don't give a damn. It's to keep me safe and let me get from point A to point B safely
yeah,
and in one piece. But there's also that feeling that you're talking about that if I'm not using it, people just assume that I'm fully able-bodied, that I see just fine, which is also not accurate.
right,
How many
right,
times I get into an Uber and they're like, "Oh, I couldn't tell that you can't see wide," because I you shouldn't assume anything about anybody, first of all. Um,
right.
it,
That,
and
oh my
that's what it is.
goodness.
It's that assumption, and then I tell people, "Oh no, I really don't see very well. Nobody wants me driving in it, and yeah, well, because I can't. Um, but at the same time, don't feel bad for me either, because I'm good.
Yes. Like
It's hard. It's hard to
it
strike that
is hard.
balance.
Yes. And it's a daily thing. And then it draws so much attention. Like I appreciate what you said about the cane. And I honestly, on most very good days, I feel the same way as far as the cane being a tool. But I also feel like it always grasps, it just gets so much attention. And because I'm the type of person that I am, and with the inclusion work that I do appreciate any opportunity to train and educate people, no matter who they are. Very similarly to a colleague of ours in AFB, Goddess, I'm real
She
quick
was
to
on the
pull a
show.
whole. Yeah. Oh, okay, great. So yeah, like I'm real quick to pull a few people together from any business and say, hey, this is how this could go. Here are a couple of other things that we could do in this particular situation. Maybe I can line something up. But at the same time, every single day, every time I leave the house, oh my gosh, I don't know if I have the capacity for it all the
Yeah,
time, you
yeah.
know?
Well, yeah, because it can be an exhausting to be the one single pen amongst a bunch of pencils.
Right.
You stick out. But
Right.
I think, human beings are curious creatures. We look for patterns. We look for, everybody wants to feel like they belong and everybody wants to feel like they're part of something. And so I honestly believe that most of the time people are looking at me when there's a curiosity factor, because 9 times out of 10, they've never seen somebody use one before. And there's a
Right.
curiosity there. And similar to you, I think it's an opportunity to, if I show up with that chip on my shoulder, I then create, and this person's never encountered somebody with a cane before, and then they're just curious. And I show up and I am angry. It's not that I am obligated to be nice to anybody, but I
Right.
personally do. But if I show up to that person who's just curious and they're not causing me any harm, they've done nothing to me, and they're just curious, and I react to them in a way that gives a negative impression because I have a cane, that leaves an impression for everybody that has a cane.
Right.
I'm representative of a
Exactly.
community, whether I like it or not.
Yes, exactly. Or several communities
Yes.
considering the whole intersectionality piece. Like for me, I'm always representing Black people, always representing women, always representing
Hmm.
cane using blind people, always representing single mothers. Like
Hmm.
so,
Whether you like it or not, you are,
whether you like it or
because you
not.
are all those things. And to deny
Right.
it, I think, is we do ourselves a disservice,
Right.
because we are all those things, whether we like it or not. It's just the truth. And accepting the truth is, I think, it's number one. It's important for our own well-being. It is what it is, and when you can acknowledge it and be like, all right, this is what it is, it allows you the space. It creates a space where you can move forward through it because
Hmm.
you're acknowledging the reality of it. If you're trying to pretend that, or compartmentalize every aspect of your life, how are you showing up authentically? And that's what you
Right.
want to create. So there was a show. It's on Netflix, and it's gotten a fair amount of press. I finished the first season, called Heartstopper, and it is
Mm.
just a beautiful show about these two young kids in England, and it's just about it's just a beautiful show. It's so touching, and it has all the feels, and I got all misty eyed in it. Not because it's just feels good to see something that's not, the world is full of enough tragedy and garbage and bad stuff. All you got, and so it's nice to have a show that just touching and it made you feel good. And
Oh,
like that's why
nice.
CBS Sunday Mornings is my favorite show, and I don't ever miss it because it has things that make you feel good. Like Steve Hartman just makes it's stuff. It's about the human condition, and that, I genuinely believe people are good, and people show up when things really get tough. Just look at like hurricane reliefs, and anytime there's a tragedy,
Mm.
people show up. And I really believe that there's not enough attention given to that part of the human condition. There's
No,
so much
not
sensational things, or what are we get the focus, right?
right.
But that's not
Right.
who people are. I genuinely don't believe that's
No,
who people are.
I love that. I do quite agree, and thank you for the new recommendation. I'm thinking about your consulting business, and please excuse and forgive me as I have not had the chance to listen to all of your episodes yet. So I
I'll
hope that this
forgive
is
you.
not necessarily a repeat.
I'll forgive you. It's okay.
This this may be a repeat, but I'm so curious as to two things. If you can name two things, two ways in which blindness has positively impacted or set you up for success in your business that you
I can give a lot more than two. So I don't.
run.
That's not necessarily a direct line from me encountering disability via blindness in 2014 and my business. So my career coaching and my executive coaching. And, a big component of that is, when it would take way too long to go into why I believe diversity and inclusion is a huge aspect of my coaching business, because I'm
Yes.
all about creating opportunities for marginalized groups and getting people employed in careers that they love. And that
Yes.
means if you don't open the doors for everybody, that's not possible. I don't see that they're different things. I see them as the same thing. But anyways,
Mm.
that's a whole other subject. I didn't realize that coaching could be an enterprise until, a lot later in life, much more recently, because it's something I've always done.
Mm.
It is something I just naturally do whether I
Yes.
want to or not. And I didn't see it as coaching. I didn't see it. I just saw it as me being me. I believe
Right.
in the potential of people. I believe in the possibility of people. I am an optimist, and I want to see people thrive authentically as they are in whatever it is that makes them happy, whatever makes them tick, whatever it is that they are passionate about. That's I want to empower them to thrive in whatever it is that they want to do. But I've always done that ever since I could remember. And so it never even occurred to me that it could be a career until much until much more recently in my life. And when I had that aha moment, it's like, oh wait a second, this is a career, this is a job.
Right.
Why did it take so long for something that I just naturally, and I think that's why. It's because the things that we naturally do, we do them no matter what. And
Right.
so we don't think of them as jobs. We don't think of them as careers. We don't think of them as opportunities because we can't separate who we are from what we do. And that's was sort of like the aha moment. So whether I encountered disability or blindness or not, I don't really think that necessarily played a role in it. Maybe in some small capacity, but I don't know. It's too hard to draw that line. But where I can say for without any question, without any doubt, how blindness has affected me in a very positive way is like I wouldn't take it back even if I could. And I know that might
Mm,
sound
mm,
strange, but
mm,
it has given me so much more than it ever took away. Yes,
mm.
it took away sight, but it didn't take away my mobility. I get around just fine. Do I do it
Right.
differently? Yes, I do have to do it differently. Different isn't worse.
Right.
It's just different. And but what it gave me, and I was having a conversation with my brother about this not so long ago, and it was very touching to me what he said because my mother passed away in 2018. And
Mm,
so after I encountered my disability, I couldn't see anything for a long period of time. And so my mother and I decided to live together. It was fine. We had a very healthy relationship. It was very respectful. There were boundaries, so it was fine. And then once I recovered, to a point where with my vision and my health to where I was sort of stable,
mhm,
which took, 2.5 years, she was diagnosed with cancer for the third time, breast cancer, and it was terminal.
mm,
And
mm.
because we were already living together, because we already had this very strong relationship, we were already set up, and we were all, I just we've just basically for like roles where I became her caregiver and I took care of everything that she needed to, and I just let her be a mom and a grandmother. She didn't have to worry about anything. She could just focus on living the rest of her life as best as she could and just living. Didn't
Right.
have to worry about anything.
That's awesome.
And that with if I didn't encounter my disability, my blindness, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And I wouldn't take away that time that I had with her for anything on the planet.
Yes.
And so
Mhm.
that in and of itself that what singular reasons enough for me. But what it also gave me, and this is what I was talking to my brother about, is I'm a better person because of it.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, I've never been a bad person. I've never been a mean person, but it has opened me up in a way to other people and allowing myself to be more vulnerable, more open to other people, and just getting rid of sort of the bull crap out there that it doesn't, most things in life are not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And in life, there's a tendency to where we let everything get under our skin. We let everything bother us. Everything is a big production. Everything is serious. And the truth
Right.
is, it's not. There are very few things that are really, really serious. And we know when they hit us. And that's what I treat when something's serious, it has my attention and I take it seriously. Most of the other stuff is just stuff.
Yeah.
And if we let everything bother us, we're just going to drive ourselves miserable. So
Hmm.
let go of all the crap that, we encounter on, yes, bad stuff happens. It sucks. People treat us badly. All kinds of things happen. But carrying that stuff, carrying that baggage doesn't serve you at all. It only it only detracts and it creates less space for the good stuff. And so when you can get rid of that baggage, when you can forgive yourself for your own transgressions, and when you can forgive other people for when they may have transgressed against you, just forgive them and move on. You can let them be a part of your life or not let them be a part of your life. That's up to you. But get rid of toxic people. Get rid of people that aren't helping to be your best self, and let them
Right.
go. Say, I wish you well, but you know what? We're not good for each other. And let them
Yeah.
go. And when you do that, you create space for the good stuff. You create space for that opportunity. So I guess in a way, blindness created that space so that I
Mm-hmm.
could move in the direction where I could be more authentic and open my own business and start my own business and focus on what I'm really truly passionate about, which is helping other people thrive.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we have that in common. So and you noted this earlier, and I would say I'm absolutely a person of faith, and
Yeah, there you go. That's a better
I
word. That's better. That's better. That's much better.
yeah, and I appreciate that. And I as you were talking, it reminded me we have so much in common, Ken. Like it's so funny to me. But as you were saying that, it reminded me of one of my favorite scriptures, which is Romans chapter 8, verse 28, which says, "All things work together for the good to them who love God and for them who are called according to his purpose." And that, like everything that you were talking about, no matter what, it's all worked together to make you who you are, this beautiful person. My gosh. And I am so
Thank you.
grateful to have met who has this powerful yet gentle voice. You don't, from what I've seen, like you absolutely do not want to take any crap whatsoever. You're not going to take any crap. You're definitely going to advocate for yourself and others. And yet, my gosh, like you're just so kind. And if if for me, it's like come what may, and I think of the same thing for my kids too. Whatever, and it's hard for parents to admit that. I think whatever is required to make you the person who you are supposed to be, then come what may, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And that I know that sounds so strange, especially as a parent, but
No,
I feel like
I
I'm,
like that though. I think I really like. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead. I
no, go
appreciate it.
ahead.
The thing that my mom gave my brothers and I that I will be eternally grateful for is unconditional love and
Yes.
acceptance of who we are as
Yes.
individuals, and knowing that no matter what, she had our back.
Yeah.
It didn't mean she always approved of what we did, didn't mean she always liked it, but she would never, ever, ever give up on her kids. And
Yes.
if there was something that we believed in and we were gonna, we were never told you can't be that, or you that's unacceptable. You are we were who we were as people, as individuals, was fine by her, as long as we were living, being authentic to ourselves, trying and being good human beings to each other and to other people. That's what mattered to her. And we were going to find our own way. And
Yes.
what we needed
That.
was that love and that nourishment. And it's so, it breaks my heart to know that not everybody understands that feeling,
Mm,
because the
mm,
older I get, the more I meet more people, and I realize not everybody gets that.
right.
And that is the most powerful thing in this universe, is that unconditional love. It doesn't need to be necessarily be from a parent, but we all need it.
We
And
all do. Absolutely.
when you have it, and you know that somebody's not going to give up on you, and they will be there, they will show up, and it
Right.
doesn't mean that they're going to be happy with you necessarily, but they'll show
Right.
up, and they
Yes.
won't, they could show up disappointed, but they'll show up,
Right.
and they won't stop loving you.
Exactly.
And that kind of relationship is the most powerful thing on this planet. And the greatest thing about being adults is, because, sometimes we come from backgrounds or from situations, or our upbringings are less than ideal, putting it mildly. Once we get older, we have the power to create our own community. We have the power to create those relationships. We have the power to find those people if we if we say, you know what, I want this, I want something different.
Mm-hmm.
We can create that, but it takes saying, you know what, recognition that certain people are toxic, and it's okay. It doesn't mean it's not against somebody else to say, you know what, we're not a good fit.
Right.
It's just the truth. You can wish somebody well and say, you know what, I'm sorry, but it's just not working for me and what I need in my life. It's, you are who you are, you're okay who you are, but it's not working for me and it needs to. That's
Yeah.
okay. It is
Yeah.
okay to be a little bit selfish when it comes to your well-being and your mental fitness and your health and your emotional wellness. That's okay.
Absolutely. We have to protect ourselves and have those
Yes.
boundaries. Yes.
It's I think it's critical. And it's
Hmm.
not saying anything bad about anybody else to say that. It's saying, find your own, find people that love and accept you as you are, but it's not compatible with me and my values and who I am. That's okay.
Right.
It's okay you don't have to just agree on everything with somebody as well. It's not about this way or that way. It's, can you show up authentically with
Yes.
all of your intersectionality and
Right.
feel love, acceptance, and belonging with the people in your life. And
Yes.
the more we can do to create that space and cast away judgments and, our own shame, because I think honestly, sometimes I know I've been guilty of this. I've been the one that has been the person that severed the relationship unnecessarily out of
Mm.
fear, out of anxiety, out of fear of rejection, or I wasn't, I've prematurely ended relationships because I didn't want to be the one to be damaged. So I caused the damage myself. We all have failings and we all
Been
have stuff
there.
that, yeah. And how, I look back and I'm like, God, I was stupid to do that. But you know what? I can forgive myself because it wasn't, I wasn't, it is what it is. We are all imperfect people.
Right. And truly, when it comes down to it, too, when it comes to these relationships, something that I'm learning is whatever it is meant to really be. This is so funny. I literally can think of a scripture for everything. There's there is, and I just read it actually, in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 1 through 8. You may have heard this because this is a very popular saying, to be quite honest, amongst all people. I believe anyway that there's a time and place for everything. Well, that original thought comes, at least from what I've seen and what I've read, it does come from Ecclesiastes. So there's a time and a season to things.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom used to say, I don't know where she got this from, but some people are in your life for a reason, and there's those who are there for a season, and there's those who are there for a lifetime.
Uh-huh.
And those who are meant to be there for a lifetime, regardless of whatever may have come to challenge the relationship at any time, for however long there was separation, whatever it is, if they're meant to be there for a lifetime, they'll circle back, or you'll
Uh-huh.
you'll find their way back.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if they don't, then you know that they fall into either reason or season category.
Yeah. Yeah. And relationships are meant to evolve over our
Yeah.
lifetimes. They're not supposed to stay
Yes.
static. They're not supposed to stay the same. Plus, how boring would
Yes.
that be? But they're supposed to evolve. We as people are supposed to change ourselves. We are not supposed to stay the same our entire lives. We're supposed to
No,
grow. We're
not at
supposed
all.
And we should want that for everyone else as well. And so that means that, as your priorities are going to change, they're going to shift. People get married, people get divorced, they have kids, there are all kinds of things happen.
Right.
And the one thing that I think that would make for a kinder, better world is if we just said, all right, allowing people to show and creating a space where they feel safe to show up authentically and be themselves,
Mhm.
and they can be a part of, when it comes to, work in our professional lives. Of course, everyone should feel welcome, and that
Yeah.
they should be there if it's, but even just in life, we shouldn't create barriers for people. We should
Right.
we should knock them down. And the more we can do that, the better we all benefit from it. There's a lot of things that happen. There's a lot of, people don't realize a lot of our technology in some ways comes from accessibility for people that were disabled. you know
Right.
and so we all benefit from speech to text, right?
Hmm.
What was that
That's right.
originally?
Right.
There's transcription and all these other things that we all benefit from.
Everybody,
Closed
but
caption.
that's that targeted universalism.
Yes,
I don't know why I said that, but yes,
yeah, but create with intent, but everybody benefits. Um,
everyone benefits.
Old,
Yes.
we are all going to get old one day. It doesn't, whether we like it or not. Um,
Inevitable.
and so ramps are safer for me. I would rather use a ramp than stairs, and I'm
Yeah.
able-bodied in terms of my mobility.
Right.
So I benefit from wheelchair ramps, and I'm not in
Yeah.
a wheelchair. So do
That's
most
right.
elderly people, because it's easier for them to go up, and safer for them to go up a ramp. So
As
when we,
as do moms who are
yeah,
rolling with strollers.
yes, thank you. And so it's like when we create access and when we remove barriers for people to get, to just participate in life, we all
Yes.
benefit. And
Yes.
so that's, when, circling back to intersectionality, that's where, we have a tendency to throw people into categories like you are this or you're that. No, you don't have to be this or
No,
that. You can be all of the
all
things
of
that you
it.
are.
And I want to take all of those things into consideration
Yep.
and make sure that you're good. And
Yeah.
then hear how you can be and how we can do other things to make sure that everybody else is too.
Yeah. So that everyone can show up and be them and be their authentic self, because that's really
Right.
what we
And
all want.
share and create and design and just enjoy this life we have left, you know?
Yeah. I can't all fit into the same box. So why even try?
Right. My goodness.
And so, and the fact that anybody would have to think about, well, maybe I shouldn't do that, even though I have permission to from the owner of this house. That's not the world we want to live in.
No.
At least that's not what I want to live in. Nobody should be. We shouldn't assume anybody is doing something nefarious based on anything other than if they're doing something nefarious.
Right. Basically. That's the
we
way it should be.
Yes, absolutely. I until I got a dog, I had a firm belief that I would not live anywhere if I felt like I had to lock the doors if I was home.
Mm.
I shouldn't feel unsafe when I'm in my home, to the point
Yeah.
where I feel like I need to lock the doors because I feel unsafe if it's not locked. The reason I started locking my doors is because I got a dog. I don't want to be anywhere where I feel like I need to lock my doors to keep myself safe. If I'm not home, it's a different thing. But if I'm there, I shouldn't feel like I have to,
Oh.
because it's your home. You should never feel unsafe in your home. And I know that right there is a sense of privilege that I can say that.
Man, because I was just thinking, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't feel that way.
A lot of people don't. A lot of people don't. And just the fact that that's something that is a cornerstone of who I am as a person is that is a privilege that I recognize that I have, that a lot of people don't know. And it sucks because I think everyone should have that feeling. Everyone should have that. No one should ever feel unsafe in their home. Ever.
Yeah.
Ever, 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 ever. And so
Wow. This was a really great conversation.
thank you. Thank you. I agree. And I'm so happy that, that you were able to sort of take the lead on this with it. Well, that was fun. Normally it's the other way around. Normally I'm asking the question, so it was kind of nice to be in the hot seat.
I appreciate you for I appreciate you for letting me drive. It's the first time in 3 years, you know. Yeah, no, this was really, really great. And honestly, I'm just tell you real quick, I was a little bit scared. I'm like, oh man, spontaneity. This is not my strong suit.
You
But
did
I'm so
great. You
glad
did
we
great.
did this. Thank you
Likewise.
so much.
You did great. And so, with that, I'm going to take the helm back. So I want to thank you for again coming on and continuing the conversation we had last time. Again, if you could just remind everybody where they can get a hold of you, and of course, all the links and stuff will be in the description of the podcast below. But if you could let them all know where they can find you, please.
Absolutely. There's the diversitycrew.com website. There's LinkedIn. And those are the main spaces to find me doing my diversity, inclusion, accessibility, inclusion thing. So yeah, come find me. I'm happy to connect with people.
And spell your name for everybody just in case, because we have a lot of blind people
Oh,
that listen. So
absolutely. Of course. Of course. So it is Montreece Hardy, M as in Mary, O as in octopus, N as in Nancy, T as in Tom, R as in Richard, E as in Edward, E as in Edward, C as in cat, E as in Edward. And the last name Hardy, H as in hat, A as in apple, R as in Richard, D as in David, Y as in yellow. Montreece Hardy, that's me.
awesome. Thank you so much, Montreece. You are amazing. I adore you. Um,
What?
and I really do. I think you're just, I love talking to you. Until next time, this is Ken Meeker, certified professional coach and owner of Vitality Career Coaching. And this has been the Dissing My Ability podcast. Please like, subscribe, and share with your community. And remember to be kind to yourself and to others.
Yay.